Okay, hello everyone. Well, you already know me. I am Vanessa, and today I'm going to be presenting the topic of student-teacher social-emotional competencies during the COVID-19 crisis. So let's start. I would like to start this presentation by defining the term VUCA. VUCA can be defined as a different group, as a group of different circumstances that rapidly change the environment. These circumstances can be ecological disasters, immigration, dramatic demographic growth, and more things. So for its acronym in English, which is VUCA, we have the letters VUCA. V is for volatility, U is for uncertainty, C is for complexity, and A is for ambiguity. So I will ask you to take a look at the pictures down the letter, and there you can have like a clear idea of what each letter means. However, I'm going to explain you. The letter V is for volatility, which refers to the rapid and unpredictable changes that might happen, especially for like the worst. So everything like is bad. The letter U is for uncertainty, which refers to the idea of lacking of predictability to what will happen next. So we don't know what will happen next. Then we have the letter C, which is complexity. And this refers to the idea in which things are complicated and this causes confusion. And then finally, with the letter A, we have ambiguity, and this means that we have more than one possible meaning or more than one possible like road, and this causes confusion. Okay, so now what do we mean when we say a black swan? Well, a black swan can be defined as an unpredictable event that goes way beyond to what is normally expected of a situation, and this has like severe consequences. And for example, some of the black swans that have passed in the past are for example the 9/11 attack or the 2008 supreme crisis. And well, in this case, our black swan nowadays is the COVID-19. Okay, now what about teaching and learning during COVID-19 crisis? Well, we all know that our lives were completely transformed from one day to another, and from one weekend to another, we stopped going to school, and we moved abruptly to online teaching and learning. And well, we needed to adjust ourselves to not going anywhere, like staying home all the time. Okay, so now let's talk about the feelings. Let's talk about the social emotional competencies. The models of social emotional competencies emphasize the following aspects, which you can see in the screen, which is self-awareness and regulation, social awareness, communication skills, empathy, responsible decision making, among other different aspects. So those are some of the aspects or the competencies that the students and the teachers need to have, like in order to have well-being and to cope with this complex situation, which is COVID-19 and this all pandemic situation. So I want to ask you a question. So just think about it. Think about your answer. Now, listen to the question. Do you think that the VA promotes social and emotional competencies, like to create a positive classroom environment? Just think about your answer, and we will discuss that in the forum. Um, so there's a wrong idea in which just because we as teachers are grown-ups or adults, well, we don't need to develop these competencies because we are supposed to have them. We are like already developed. We already have developed them, but as I said, this is a wrong idea. Sometimes we don't know how to deal with our own emotion, so it's a wrong idea. Okay, so now let's start with the research. Well, not only in Mexico, but all over the world, the COVID-19 crisis affected all organizations. And well, a college in Israel prepares teachers and educators. Well, decided to do a research on how students and teachers deal with the social emotional aspects during this pandemic situation. Well, a college in central Israel, as I said, and this college faculty prepares undergraduate and graduate students to teach all school subjects to all ages. And well, the aim of this study was to examine the extent to which students were able to cope with the changes brought by COVID-19 outbreak. The participants were 54 students and 33 college-based teachers. 90% of the students were female, and well, 27, which is health, studied in the elementary department, and the other 27 studied in the secondary department. Then the teachers were experienced teachers, and they had a PhD. Some of them had a PhD, and some of them had a master's degree. Okay, so what about the method and the data collection? Well, they used three different collection methods. The first one was an open-ended questionnaire that asked students to reflect on how they felt on their experience of learning these courses that they had in face-to-face situation. Then they have to move to this online learning. So this questionnaire asked how they felt and the challenges that they found, the difficulties, and so on. Then the second collection method was an open-ended questionnaire, but this time wasn't for the students. Instead, it was for the teachers. And well, this questionnaire asked teachers to reflect on how COVID-19 affected their teaching and how they respond to it. So furthermore, the teachers explain how the COVID-19 affected their students' learning. And finally, the last method was a semi-structured interview conducted with 16 teachers. So these interviews lasted 1.5 hours, and well, the aim of this interview was to describe their teaching and their students' learning during the COVID-19 crisis. So all the data collected, sorry, it was counted as well. They use a qualitative approach to the analysis of the data comprised in the following steps, which is the VUCA dimensions provided like a top-down framework, and then from students' experience and teachers' perspective, an inductive approach was used. Well, then they examined similarities, differences, and complementarities across and within each group of participants. Then they compared notes and agree on the final categorization scheme. Then all the data collected from students was grouped into one category called individual copying. Then the data collected from the teachers was grouped into only one category called T's perspective and their perspective on and attendance to students' well-being. And finally, the four VUCA categories are grouped and associated into only one category named external conditions. So here we have the circles. The inner circle is the student's individual copying. Then the mid circle is the teacher's perspective and attendance to students' well-being. And finally, the outer circle is the VUCA categories. Okay, so well, easy to explain. Just the outer circle explains like the external conditions which the coronavirus imposed, and well, the students needed to cope with this. Then I'm going to explain the rest of the circles. So let's start with volatility and cope with volatility. Well, with these students express that they feel that, well, they feel that they do not have control over anything and everything is like chaos. The main characteristic of, for example, of an academic year, or in this case, or semester, is that we have a specific time to do the things. For example, we follow the order. We have days, and we have the semester, and we have hours. So this COVID-19 crisis changed this stability, and students feel like they feel stressed because the things change so fast. So as you can see, the conditions led to fear, stress, anxiety, and sense of lacking of control. Then the uncertainty and coping with uncertainty. Well, students already know like the sequence of the students is of their studies. So as I said, this semester, and we have the days and we have the hours that we need to work and so on, blah, blah, blah. And well, the COVID-19 crisis changed and interrupt this sequence. So students express concerns about their ability like to fulfill the teaching duties because, well, they don't have like this um, teaching experience by now, because they were supposed to start teaching like by now. So then complexity and coping with complexity. Well, students explain that due to the situation, they feel stress and they think that everything is chaos, as I said before. They also express that they felt that things are not going anywhere. So I think this is something that we can relate to. I think that we can also think that. And well, they had a lot of work to submit, and they had some difficulties because they are not only dealing with the university part, or with this teaching part, but they also dealing with jobs and more demanding jobs and family. Some of them are married, some of them have kids, so they are dealing with this. They feel that they are drowning, they feel pressure, and some of them actually thought to quit the studies they're learning. Okay, and finally, ambiguity and coping with ambiguity. Well, to this part, students explain that all the possibilities that they have make them like feel stressed, and they didn't know what to do. So it was like hard for them to follow and determine what's like important. They felt also lack of clarity, vagueness, and chaos. Okay, now moving on to the TIS perspective on students, which is the myth circle. And well, the teachers didn't stay like with only one specific condition when the research was done, but they took like all the overall experience during the lessons. They said that students were resistant, and they feel stressed, anxious. Students felt that they weren't like unable to make the expectations, and the teachers explained that the students did not have a problem of motivation, but they weren't like emotionally capable of talking about their learning. Okay, so by now, teachers serve as moderators instead of only teachers. So this situation of COVID-19 led teachers to serve as moderators, and well, they had to change the curriculum so they can attend to the students' needs. Not because they changed the curriculum, not because they shift into online teaching, but because the students' difficulties in coping with these situations. So what teachers did was that they reduced the workload, and they started like paying more attention to the social emotional aspects of their students. And teachers also gave like personal attention to them. They tried to calm them down and like give some time to share the difficulties that they might have and seek for solutions using like Zoom calls. And well, let's go. Finally, discussion and implications. Well, social emotional skills influence how well people adjust to the environment. And many students had problems like managing this COVID-19 situation because of the lack of these necessary skills. So, well, some of the skills that we need to have is social emotional competency, management, communication, empathy, and self-awareness. Some of the methods that we can use to develop these social emotional competencies are stress management techniques, teamwork around the problems to talk about them, digital support platforms, and mindfulness. So sorry, I spoke too fast, but I only have 15 minutes. And here's my reference. And well, thank you so much. I will see you in the forum.